Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
Hello and welcome to the All In Podcast. We are joined by Kevin and me, Mitchell, your host for the day. We are here to convene after the first round of MSI. Some stuff may have happened.
That is what we are here for.
Let's see. Some teams played. I think there was T1 and Top Esports was cool. There's Fnatic, PSG, GAM, some other teams I don't want to talk about. But anyways, how are you doing, Kevin? How have you been? Did you catch the games? What'd you think?
I caught all. Well, I didn't watch all of them live per se because I'm like not able to wake up that early or stay awake that early. But I caught some of them and then watched the recaps / watch the games actually.
Yeah.
So I got to watch all of them except for EST versus was it GAM or there was like a game where I was like EST is not gonna win this.
I think it was EST versus the PSG. Yeah.
PSG, yeah. I was nah. I'm not drinking enough of the Kool-Aid to think that this is gonna actually play out.
Yeah. That series was, I think, very one-sided. I think PSG just completely annihilated EST, so kind of not too much to comment on that one. But yeah,
I also think it was very fitting that you started talking as if it was a eulogy, for no particular reason.
Yeah, whatever, man. I'll just bring up the elephant in the room, okay? Listeners, yes, it is confirmed. Spoilers: FlyQuest has already been eliminated from MSI. Kind of unlucky. Did I disconnect?
No,
Why do I keep disconnecting from the internet?
No, you've been fine this whole time.
I was fine this whole time?
Unfortunately, you didn't disconnect while singing this eulogy.
Okay, good. So this is awkward. We're doing a live podcast. I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna turn some stuff off.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
That's how you know that we haven't planned anything.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. We have not.
This is as legit as it gets.
Okay, let's see. And then I have to turn the other phone. I have 3 phones. So I have to turn all of them off Wi-Fi. And I have to find
3 phones. No wonder you have internet issues.
Yeah. Well, I didn't always have.
I don't think they're actually the source. That's me memeing, but.
Okay, I think one of my iPhones I think is the source because I have so many programs, auto updates, different like auto searching of stuff. It's like a jailbroken iPhone kinda. I've messed with it a lot.
Understood. Yeah,
and it does a lot of random shit. So I have to turn that one off the Wi-Fi all the time. But I just decided to turn my other phones off too, just in case. But we're back. Okay, let's talk about the main topic at hand. FlyQuest sucks. What was up with that? Let's see.
There's so many things to say about it too. It's not like saying they suck is an understatement. Like what is it? The 1731 happened, and I thought that would be the worst of it. I was like, okay, I mean, it's against T1, so like, well, really, what were we expecting?
Yeah. Let's just start from the journey all FlyQuest had, right? So let's start from the very beginning. Let's just talk about the first PSG series, okay? So that one did go 2-1. FlyQuest took it against PSG in their first time matching up. FlyQuest lost game 1, but then they won game 2 and game 3. It was off the back of mostly Bwipo hard carrying the games. I think Bwipo was fed all 3 games in the first series, but was especially fed game 2 on that Urgot. I think he was like 10-0. Yeah, he was 10-0. And then the game 3 Olaf, he was also a pretty big factor in that game. But honestly, Masu and Jensen had pretty big scorers in game 3. But I mean, when I saw FlyQuest versus PSG first face off, it was a really close series. It was very tightly knit, even though there was a lot of really big score lines from the side of FlyQuest, and it made it look one-sided. It was not, actually. I would say that it was pretty close.
Pretty competitive, yeah.
Yeah, it was close the entire time, all 3 games, and it was like, honestly, PSG just seemed to have better macro and was always able to kind of keep it close, even though the kills were so dramatically in favor of FlyQuest in the first series.
Agreed.
So, yeah, any quick thoughts on that first series? Like, what were your impressions after watching it? What did you think, like,
I
just in
think
general.
it went as expected. You know that I did the somewhat controversial prediction of PSG actually winning the first series, which I was wrong about, but
Yeah.
we'll get to that later. And I think that for the most part, it did go as I planned. I think Bwipo is actually internationally good, even if, he can be bad sometimes. Like, he is the right type of player to have at international because he punishes, like, the guys who are just getting by, right? Like, if you are a fraud, you will get exposed by Bwipo. But if you're really good, he will boost your scores.
Yeah.
So I think other than that, my impressions were I think it did show like we are, no matter how good our players are, it's also a coaching issue, right? Like a macro issue. Like we already knew that there was a coaching issue because of how well like Liquid is the only team in NA currently that's coached at that level. Maybe NRG last year, but you can tell, right? Because they don't have the talent of FlyQuest or C9 on paper. It doesn't matter how they look right now; their talent's not there. So it's kind of crazy. Like I don't think that PSG has the star power necessarily in the top side, but they totally showed the macro gap.
Yeah, I think the coaching thing is an interesting topic to jump on because it did feel like FlyQuest, like especially in top lane, just specifically top lane, was
Yep.
seriously gapping. Was it Aussie in the first
Azzy,
series
yeah.
on
Yep.
all three games?
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I think we were giving some copium before the finals of LCS where FlyQuest had their one of their coaches. It was a main coach. It was like I think one of their
Yeah.
main analyst or drafting coaches
It was like the
kicked.
stagecoach,
Yeah,
whichever one it was. Yeah.
he was kicked literally the week before finals, and
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if they still been feeling that pain. I think a lot of like
Mm-hmm.
MSI viewers don't know this little trivia of FlyQuest that they lost their coach a week before the finals of LCS, haven't gotten him back, and there's a very real possibility that it's stressful going to MSI. It's the organization's first time. Two of the players, Masu and Bizio, have never been international. That losing a coach, you just even though they had a month plus to prepare for MSI, they never were able to bounce back. I think that's perfectly reasonable and viable to assume, and it kind of looks like that, right? Because honestly, when they're in NA, obviously it's like we're comparing like how does FlyQuest compete against other NA teams versus how does FlyQuest compete against PSG, which is actually a good team. It's hard to
Mm-hmm.
make those comparisons, but if I'm being honest, like it did feel like FlyQuest in general just got worse from their showings in LCS. Um,
Yes.
you could
And
even tell in the first series, I think.
absolutely. And like the time that they had between the tournaments does not give them a coach that
Yeah.
has like the skill and the time, right, to ramp up. So yeah, they got a month or so to like catch up, but like that's not really gonna do anything if you can't get a really good coach out of nowhere.
Yeah. So I do think they suffered from that. But hey, they were able to at least take the first series off and they qualified to play against T1, which
Mhm.
it should be a reward, right? I think that it should be a reward to get to play a team like T1. T1 is the most famous, most popular team in all of League of Legends, maybe even esports history. You should
Yep.
feel grateful to play against them. But I think what actually ended up happening is something that happened to Mad Lions before and happened to many, many other teams is that they played against T1, they got bodied so hard that they lost confidence, they lost some willpower or ability to play the game because Whippo and Jensen both said it in post series interviews. We're going to talk about it. The spoiler's already out there, right? They did lose to PSG after their T1 series, where in their post defeat interviews, they're saying that T1 like boomed them, which is really sad, right? It's kind of like
Yeah.
you get this reward and it ends up actually hurting you. So let's talk about the T1 series a little bit. What do you think of FlyQuest versus T1?
I think as we expected, like the bot lane just cannot. They already couldn't against our NA bot lanes, right? And I think traditionally our NA bot lanes aren't even bad. Like so, they were just a maybe halfway point or bottom halfway point bot lane for NA standards. So there was just no chance. I think what was nice to see, I guess, before the domination was top side did do what they were trying to do. There was a first blood before the legendary game happened, right? Which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, also probably mirrors what happened with the classic 1647, was it?
Yeah, something like that for Mad Lions.
1601? No,
I
no,
think
1601 is
1647, I think. Yeah.
1647. 1601 is IG versus T1 again. It's always T1.
No, I think the IG versus T1 was 15 something. Yeah.
So it's 15:57 in game, right? But the end game clock goes to 16:01 because the next is animation. So it depends on if you count the scoreboard or if you
Oh.
count the game. But
Okay,
I remember
whatever.
that one vividly because I was like, oh
Okay.
my god, a pre-16 game. I'm like, wait, what the hell? Where did 16:01 riot?
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, I think that for the most part, like, uh, it's absurd to me how strong the macro gap was, and although Whipple got first blood, I believe he gave back the kill soon after. Um,
Yeah.
so they didn't really
Mm.
play to their outs. Like they had like maybe a quick plan, like a solo queue. Hey, I'm gonna gank here, and it was a good gank, and then that was it. Plan over. I didn't think I'd get this far.
Yeah, I think that the lane swapping stuff. I think that
Mm.
the lanes we haven't actually talked too much about lane swaps. I brought it up once, I think, but lane swaps have been a big contentious topic in this tournament. Um, Actually, we should just have a little discussion about it in general, but let's just talk about it in the context of T1 and FlyQuest and stuff like that. I think FlyQuest they showed against their PSG series in the first time that they had lane swaps down way better than PSG did. Um, so that's honestly gave them a lot of edges in the PSG series the first time around. But I think once you got to T1, FlyQuest, they got lane swapped on, right? I think Gumayushi and Carry initiated the lane swap. Did they? I don't actually don't remember.
I don't remember who initiated because I was just watching the highlights.
Right. Okay. So, regardless of who initiated it, I do think that T1 had lane swaps down so much better, and it was
Hmm.
like a
Yeah.
really big deal for um, I think Owner and Keria just playing the map way way better, as well as Inspired was on the Graves, and that is not a good champion right now. I don't think that's pro viable by any means. Graves is a solo queue champion where you get a lot of farm, you get a lot of kills, and you can snowball ahead. But in pro play, there's just not enough gold for a Graves to ever be viable in the jungle, I think. So
Especially when you're the underdog.
yeah, yeah. Especially when you're lane swapping too, and you need your jungler for dives and for ganks, right? Like you
Yeah.
can't have a farming jungler in the lane swap meta. So I think that big mistake from Inspired to pick that champion. And overall, I
Hmm.
mean, the game was 13-1, and like the only kill was on Bwipo on the tank Zac, and it was brutal. Was not even close. And then we can talk about game two. This is where I think I want to talk more about the lane swap. So this
Hmm.
is a topic. I think there's a clip about Casual that's kind of trending right now, where it's like you look at the T1 versus FlyQuest scoreboard for game two, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, Inspired's got 6 kills at the end, right? He probably has the most damage, most gold on his team. It looks like he carried, right? But I think a lot of people who watch the series, and Casual says it himself,
Hmm.
that this game was actually lost by Inspired. He's the reason why his all of his teammates' scores look so terrible. Um, so I'll
Yep.
go into more detail. In the lane swap, right? A lot of things that you have to do is you have to like kind of cover your lanes, right? Your jungler and support have to move around in specific times to cover like big overloading of one side, right? So like what kept happening is FlyQuest's bot lane was at a turret trying to farm, right? T1 is crashing a wave against them, and they're getting 4v2 dove. And Inspired is on the other side of the map, counter juggling and looking for a blue buff that like doesn't even exist. So
That's a good way
it's
to describe it.
yeah. So like pretty much Inspired played the lane swaps so poorly in that game too that he caused basically the entire team to lose the game, right? Because his bot lane gets dove, Jensen gets TP's in, or Jensen roams, dies, TP's
Yep.
back, and immediately dies again. And obviously, those are those players' faults, right? But all of it is completely different if Inspired is literally just physically there, right? It changes everything. Inspired goes down, a couple camps here and there, maybe, but
Yep.
he prevents his team from chain feeding like 5 kills and a turret or something like
Mm.
that. So yeah, that's a bit of
I
my rant on game two.
I'm glad you brought it up because I was gonna do it otherwise. Like, yeah, I was looking at the Hupu ratings, which is just like some Chinese or Hupa, whatever it
Mm.
is, HUPA, HUPU. It's like this thing on the Reddit that like it's basically the Chinese community. They'll like rate the players, give on both teams, and then give comments, right? And I
Yeah.
think it's hilarious. But they
Yeah.
gave him inspired like a pretty high rating on that game, and I was like, he was dog shit. Like,
Yeah.
excuse me, yeah, exactly what you said. I'm glad it was called out. I think he was even called out on the broadcast to some extent. Uh, it is one thing to like play to your out, maybe if you're the win conditions, sure, or whatever. But as a jungler, especially in the case that you broke down so well for us, like it won't ever show, right? It's the reason why X Smithy was never a superstar, even though he's so incredible. When you sacrifice, right, that it looks not flashy, it's not the star play thing to do, but it's actually the best play by far.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
it's so obvious that at least at this tournament, I felt like Inspired did not play cerebrally. I didn't think he played well in these spots at least, and I don't know. I'm a little disappointed because I thought honestly, like as you heard from me many times already, like this guy, I think this guy is good, but
Yeah.
I think at this tournament, like I don't want this. Basically, what I'm saying, so I don't want this tournament to be Inspired's bad, and that he's always been like this. He only plays like this. There are definitely games he does not. He's like actually played for his bots everywhere. That's why Danny was so famous during that time.
Yeah.
But at this tournament, I guess he just egoed hard, or he thought my teammates are so terrible. Those interviews were not just memes, guys. Like he just thinks his bot is so terrible and his mid is so terrible. He's got to play for himself, right?
Yeah.
And it just like got taken to its logical extreme, and he got exposed.
Yeah. I don't think
You might be
Inspired's
less generous
bad.
than me, but okay.
Yeah. No, I don't think Inspired's bad. I just think he had a really bad tournament, and that
Yes.
considering his role in the team and his status as a player, I do think this tournament was kind of his fault. I actually think it was his fault, I think. And a little bit of Bwipo's too later in the series. I think Bwipo gets some credit because they're only in that place because of him, right? He carried the first series against PSG so hard. It's hard for me to fault Bwipo, but I mean, Inspired definitely had a big hand in them losing the T1 series that terribly, and also a big hand in them losing the PSG series that terribly. Like, both those series are really one sided in the FlyQuest losses. And I do
Yes.
think it's Inspired's fault. Like, he's probably the main person whose fault it is, honestly. So he had a really bad tournament. Let's be real. Let's be fair. That's just true. I don't think he's bad. I think he's still good. I think if you're looking for a jungler or if you want to keep a jungler, right, FlyQuest should definitely keep Inspired. But let's not play games here. Like let's not cope, right? He lost his team some pretty important
Yes.
games internationally.
Do you
Um,
think he, before we hear the interview tomorrow or whenever it ever comes out, do you think he repents? Do you think he actually even noticed?
I mean, I do think he knows. I think someone's gonna bring it up, or he should know it if he ever reviews it. That his choices in that game too to like cross map while his bot lane is getting repeat dove over and over, it should be obvious to almost 99% of people that he made the wrong play. So if he doesn't recognize that, then I'll just be like, yeah, you're bad. But he should recognize it. It's pretty obvious. I
Yeah,
mean, his team got
I
chained
agree.
dove. Yeah.
The credit I always gave him was like he seems like he uh is just being too unhinged or not unhinged, unfiltered. Like he doesn't give a shit about other people, even though it makes sense to. So if he does actually accept blame, like he says he does sometimes, I'd like to see
Like to
some
see it
like
represented in an interview or something, right? Like
yeah, exactly,
some
right?
recognition that hey, I didn't play great. Hey, I spent a whole freaking split talking shit about everybody in NA only to perform worse than most NA teams. Like let's be
Hmm.
real, NA teams don't lose to wildcard teams. It just really doesn't happen, right?
We at least have that going for us. We always like point out like, hey, our win rate against lower like C teams, we're actually the wild card killers every
Yeah,
time.
we are. We are. We don't like G2 is the one that loses to wildcard teams, right? Like top esports is the one that loses to wildcard
Mad
teams.
Lions is the
Mad
one.
Lions, yeah, that's right.
Come on, they're not
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah, I forgot about him honestly. Yeah, Mad
This
Lions,
is their
G2.
stomping ground.
Yeah, I mean G2 had the
Oh,
Fungvo Buffalo like curse. I think Top Esports they lost to Gam themselves, right? Who's in this tournament, so like NA has never
Yeah.
had problems with wildcard teams, and who is it but the one and only TSM Maple taking us out of the garbage we are? Oh my God, he leaves NA to go back to PSG and just wreck us. Kind of sad, honestly. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the last series now. PSG versus FlyQuest rematch. Yeah, it was pretty one-sided. Not gonna lie. I think it was close for a bit in game one. It looked like actually FlyQuest had a substantial hold on the game in game one, but it just fell apart real quick. And I think this one we can actually blame Wupo a bit more. Um,
Oh yes.
so this was another lane swap series. I think Jat and Emily they it was clipped, but they had some pretty interesting things to say on the broadcast where yeah, they're basically like, hey, lane swaps are interesting and definitely meta and a viable strategy at MSI, right? But
Yep.
why are you lane swapping? Okay, what's the reason to lane swap? So now I'm going to talk a bit more about lane swaps in general, and that
Okay.
the main goal for lane swapping that everyone needs to understand is to dodge bad matchups, right? Like that's why you should do a lane
Hmm.
swap. You don't do a lane swap to get grubs, okay? You don't do a lane swap to like try to get a slight gold lead or something or a turret plate lead, right? Because all that stuff, it's like just not very reliable. The main reason you lane swap is to skip some part of a bad matchup, okay? So we've seen some lane swaps in LEC and LPL and this tournament where they just lane swap for the first few levels, right? Like I've seen a lane swap where they do a second wave crash, they get level 2 or something, and then they just go right back to normal laning because a lane like Callista Ashe or something, or Varus Ashe, the level 1 is so impressive that you need to dodge it, right? I think that very good strategy. You should just dodge that shit, right? Just skip level 1, get to level 2, go back, and you're much, much happier. Like, the level 1 is such a big deal sometimes. But
Yep.
FlyQuest versus PSG Talon, they had Varus Renata, and they decided to lane swap against Senna Nautilus. And I would argue they actually ended up helping PSG, who did not opt for the lane swap, because it's a hard winning matchup for Varus Renata. And you're lane swapping into top lane turret that has bonus armor on the turret. And it's like, what's the point here? We didn't even really get a lead. We like threw away our lane advantage. We threw away. I mean, I guess you could also. So I'm kind of ranting a lot, but I have a lot to say about lane swaps.
That's okay.
You could also
I mean,
say that.
you can cover my portion of the conversation because you're basically covering everything you need to say about it.
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate it. I love to hear
Hmm.
myself talk. I think you could argue that maybe FlyQuest lane swapped to avoid the Urgot versus Rumble matchup because there's a lot of people, a lot of co-streamers, a lot of analysts that are saying that Urgot is a good matchup into Rumble, but it's actually not true at all. There's like this challenger Urgot player made a post on Reddit being explaining why Rumble is actually a very, very strong matchup into Rumble, into Urgot, I mean. So
Ergot. Mm, yeah.
yeah, Rumble wins against Urgot essentially. So maybe FlyQuest was trying to avoid that matchup, but it's kind of like you're putting your star player on Urgot. He gets counterpicks, so you lane swap him, sure, but you just guarantee that Urgot's just going to be behind the average tempo of the game, right? Like he might fare better than a Rumble in a lane swap, but Rumble in lane swaps is really good because you hit level 6 and you can just clear waves, right? You can avoid so much of the hard part about lane swaps, which is you get 3v1 or 4v1 dove, but then you rumble with the wave, you can't get dove anymore, right? So I just think that from the get-go, FlyQuest versus PSG Talon in their second series, game one, fundamentally it just felt like FlyQuest made all the wrong choices, all the biggest mistakes. So that's what I had to say about FlyQuest, at least in the game one, because there's not much to say else besides they lost pretty badly. But
Oh,
go
there is
ahead.
more to say.
Yeah, there's more to say.
One
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
last part. It's
Go
just
ahead.
narrative, though. It's that it's very obvious that these guys are emotional players, especially inspiring Bwipo. When they got tilted off of their loss to T1, like you could just see these guys were playing worse. And I'm not saying that PSG was not giving them credit. I'm just saying that like it's obvious because we literally just saw the other best three. Like the level that dropped off.
Yeah.
Lycos did not get better running through lower bracket guys. They were like pretty much at their wits end, it felt like.
Yeah, they got much worse. I think the main person who got substantially worse was Bwipo. He started going for extremely aggressive, desperate plays. I think there's a time where FlyQuest was quite in a good spot in the game, and then they're on Urgot. They get a catch onto Rumble in PSG's jungle, right? They kill him, and then they just keep going and going, right? They like
Oh, that was so
it
dumb.
was
Oh
so
my
dumb. They
god.
like catch the Nautilus flashes away. They try and go for I think it was the Viego, right? Viego's running
Uh-huh.
away, and they leave. It's like they're chasing for like 20 seconds, long enough for Maple to like base, TP, and Shurima shuffle their whole team, and then the game's just fucking over. It was so sad, so
I would
sad.
say one of the ratings for Inspired on the bad game, well, both were bad, but the bad game against PSG is they called him NA Clear Love
Yeah, oh
because
no.
he's like goaded in his domestic leagues and then he goes international. But I mean, Clear Love won IPL 3, so honestly, I think or IPL 5. So like, I honestly think it's kind of a disrespect to Clear Love. I'm like, at least Clear Love won something.
Yeah, and also I think Clear Love has in general had a more impressive career than Inspired. But yikes. Yeah, yeah. We'll talk a little bit about Game Two. Not much to say about Game Two except um once again, I think Bwipo. Oh God, the Bwipo inspired dive on top side, right? They're playing Renekton Viego. They're trying to chase down the Rumble, and they just like they flash through turret, chase like do ring around the Rosie on the Rumble, and then they just give a double kill over to Maple's Aurelion Soul. And I was like, this is the most bronze elo shit I've seen in an international game in a very long time, and it's from our two best players on the team, our two like biggest veterans. And it was at that moment where I realized that like this team, they live and die by Boop Inspired, right? It's like I think a lot of people are gonna be like, wow, Boop Inspired inted, and like they certainly did, 100%. But also, Jensen, Masu, and Buzio do nothing. They are non-factors in the game. Like they do not
It's
affect the impact. They do not impact the result of the game at all. And I felt I had that realization being like, well, sucks. Yeah.
basically they were Summit and Pyoshik.
Yeah, kinda. They are. Yeah, top side. Yeah, they were.
Our top side European top laner,
Yeah.
very strong when they are strong. But I mean, I think Pyoshik is worse than Inspired. But the point is, like, it's the similar idea, right? All of the firepower was their top two, and the second they were gone, it's extremely obvious how big the fall off is.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I definitely agree. Jensen was a complete non-factor in almost every series he played. He didn't int,
Mhm.
but he didn't do anything impressive. Busio didn't. All right, we'll bring it up. All right, I don't think we brought it up much.
The hook game, the Nautilus game they won was actually so disgusting.
that's like it's like
It's
that's where
so
you that's where you type support diff in chat when you as the Nexus ends. Your top
Brother,
laner's
I'm
10 and
I'm
0.
sorry. I could have hit those hooks in those situations under that duress. I could have hit
Oh,
more. I'm sorry. It's
I
like
think I could have too. He was shitting his pants.
he was shitting his pants. Homie was actually lost in the sauce. That was really bad.
Yeah, that first series on the Nautilus was very eye-opening. He had so many amazing blunders. Like my favorite one was where he's standing right next to a wall. He wants to flash over it and hook somebody. He just flashes in place and hooks the wall, and it was the funniest thing ever. It was probably one of the funniest plays that has happened this year so far.
So far.
So far, I mean, hey, Flycos can make worlds. We can see
uh,
more of this shit.
to his credit, I think while we were giving Masu and Busius some shit, and like deservedly so, especially for some of those games, they both played actually pretty fine for what's
Masu, yeah,
expected of them.
yeah,
Yeah, Masu did, and then Busiu had a really good Renata game. I actually think those Renata ults were sick.
yeah,
Like they were not in that game if he wasn't landing 4 or 5 man ults in the right timings. The
yeah.
game after that, not great, but his Renata was good.
I agree. I think he did have a good Renata. I think that yeah, he's just probably a better range support player than melee support player. I don't know. That's not true. He was smurfing on Rakan all of last year, right? See, that's I also wonder
I
like
don't count
like
Rakan as a melee support though. I think I've been building a theory where being good at Rakan does not mean you're good at melee supports. I think being good at Rakan just means you're good at Rakan because like the
yeah.
Rakan like savants, they're not always good at melee supports like missing and on and stuff like that. They just play it.
Yeah, I mean Rakan's just OP too, right? Rakan's just kind of broken in pro play. So
Yes.
yeah. So I mean, I'm just surprised that FlyQuest didn't do anything like that, right? Like I don't know why they like another problem I had with FlyQuest is like besides maybe the Urgot and the Olaf pick, right? They were very very much meta slaves. Like they didn't pick anything different, anything spicy, nothing juicy.
They pick Graves
Okay, well
as
that's a
well.
bad spicy. That's like bad.
Well,
Like
yeah,
that's like
but they
that's
probably
like
thought it was
awful
like, dude, this is
spicy.
so spicy.
It's like that's some like some shit, like some spicy shit. Like that came out the wrong end, sort of spicy. Like that's bad. But like I would have been interested like to just throw out a Zyra Khan, right? Like what does FlyQuest really need to get done? You know what? They need team fighting power. They need reliability. They need something to make stuff happen. And you already tested the Nautilus. Okay, it didn't work. Don't give Buzio Nautilus, okay? You gotta give the bot lane something else to make an impact on the game because when you play Varus and you lane swap and stuff, it's like the bot lane just has no impact on the game for so long. Like they just don't do anything. And then
Yep.
at that point, the game's already over because they messed up the lane swap too much or they died before. And it's like, well, GG, bot lane didn't do anything. So I do have a problem with a lot of the drafts that FlyQuest chose to do, but you know what are you gonna do about it? They lost their drafting coach.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
with that in mind, honestly, like kind of as expected.
I don't think they should have lost to PSG. I don't think. I think that if they had just not mental boomed and taken PSG seriously, it would have been close and tough, but they should have been able to beat them again the second time
Are you
around.
telling me they didn't take them seriously in the rematch? I think they had to have taken them seriously. There's
No,
no way they underestimated them.
Jensen did give an interview, a post-match interview, where they kind of said they
Oh, I didn't see
underestimated
it.
and didn't prepare much for PSG the second time,
That
and they
just
got
sounds like bullshit to me, though. Like I mean, it
maybe
might
it's
be the
PSG.
truth, but like, am I supposed to believe in the qualifying match for MSI? That's the one we slacked off on.
Sounds like it. That's what Jensen basically
That's
said. Maybe
so
he's
NA
coping.
though.
It is
God
very
damn it.
NA. That's classic NA right there.
Might be
Yeah,
true. I don't like that. It might be true.
I say it adds up to me. It adds up to me, and I hate it even more. So it's pretty much NA to spare. Like this is worse than losing to EU. This is actually much worse than losing to EU.
Oh, absolutely.
We
What?
lost to
Of
the wild
course.
card. So sucks to suck, I guess. Okay, now let's talk about the other side of the coin. Okay, let's
Okay.
talk about PSG. They're actually a good team. All right, let's be real. Like they're not a bad team. If you were to put them in LCS, they would probably be like top two, right? Maybe even better than top.
Well,
Like
they did just go 3-1 against our number 2 team, so
yeah, and they're in a way weaker region, right? Like they spend most of their time in a weaker region. If they got to spend a year in LCS, slightly stronger region, one could argue, then yeah, I think PSG has a chance to maybe even be the best LCS team. So let's not like
yeah.
discredit PSG and saying that yeah, FlyQuest obviously should have won because they were good. They were. I think that the most impressive was definitely the bot lane for PSG, very very stable.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of big plays, especially from Woody. And Betty, I think, is just a reliable rock.
As he always has been. Yep.
Always has been. I think Maple is a bit of a coin flipper. He has some really high highs and some
His
pretty low
ASOL is
lows.
good though. Jeez.
His ASOL was good. He was gifted a free double kill, so that
I
helps.
that okay, yeah, that kind of ended the game right there, which we
Yeah,
didn't even mention, but
the
it's
game is
just too
over.
much to mention.
Yeah, if the game is over, if you give ASOL a double kill for free for no effort at like what 8 minutes in or something. So
It was like pre level 8. I don't
it
remember
was very
exactly,
early
but
in the game. Yeah, it was like I think they
um
were all like level 6, level 7 or
also
something.
I would argue our league might be better, but them giving time in NA might be worse because they get to practice on the Chinese server and the Korean
Oh,
server.
that's true. That's
They're in
true.
Asia, dude.
Yeah,
So
that's
like
true.
their league might be worse, but I don't even know if it is anymore. Dude, LGL's in there too, and all like they have a lot of competition that can breed strats and stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, and they get to
Let's
play
just
high
say I
elo
would
Korean server.
sweat if our whole league had to play against their whole league. That's all I'm saying.
No, you're actually right. Like we are entering a world where like their region, PSG's region, with the PCS, the LGL, CB LOL, I think are they all in there or not CB LOL?
Not CBL. CBL's
Yeah, Brazilian, right?
Brazil, but
They have like
LJL's in
three
there,
different
and
regions.
then PCS was already a combination of not just Taiwan, but like Hong Kong and a bunch of other places down there.
Yeah.
So it's just like basically, it's at this point it's just Southeast Asia is how I understand it.
Yeah, and they have.
Are the Osh players there then?
Oh, they are. I think the Oceania players are.
Because
No, no,
Oceania doesn't have a league and they don't
no.
have a
I
spot.
I thought NA absorbed Oceania. That's why we.
Sure, but but
Yeah.
we didn't absorb every player. So all the players
No.
who, like, I don't know. We'll have to check
Yeah.
the PCS, but it would
Regardless,
make
right?
sense to me.
I think that treating them as a wild card region is only because of like size and stuff. Honestly, like if we're
Hmm.
being real, their talent pool is just as old as NA's, and it's just smaller. But they get to play in Korean solo queue. They get to have way better
Yeah,
practice regimens there. It's
way
just that
better.
yeah, they just have less money and less infrastructure, right? But
Yep.
not necessarily worse players. You could argue better players. Like I think that a lot of NA players would sacrifice like all of their coaching staff and infrastructure just to play Korean solo queue, right? Um, on a daily. So, yeah, PSG is not a bad team. They're actually quite good. Let's be real. um, but still, though, we should have been able to beat them, right? Like I think
Also,
that
yes.
like we have Bwipo inspired and Jensen on our roster, like some of like
World
EU's
semifinal,
greatest
quarterfinal,
players.
and finals. Like
Yeah,
some of
it's
the best players in the West.
yeah, literally one of NA's best players ever, and some of EU's best players ever too. Like maybe not recently, but like in the history of EU,
Hmm.
Bwipo is one of the best. Like he is
Hmm.
always making finals, always winning stuff on Fnatic, always making international. Like the amount of internationals that Bwipo and Jensen have gone to, like it's insane. Like, same I guess same with Maple and Betty too. So
Yeah, I
but
mean Maple and Betty probably have very similar numbers as well.
yeah, if you
Considering
actually,
they were, especially because they have longer careers.
I
Maple is
actually
a
think
10-year
Maple probably has
veteran.
more. Yeah, I think Maple actually has more than them. So, because
He was
Maple
there
was
ever since the Korean slaying days. The T1 Slayers is back.
yeah, the Flash Wolves, dude. Maple has so many solo kills against Faker himself, actually, in like season 4 or something.
Can't believe he was here on TSM, dude. It's so wild. Sword Art and Maple being here on TSM still feels like a fever dream to me.
And they were bad.
And they
They
were
were bad.
Maple was okay, but Sword Art
Yeah,
was bad.
Sword Art was bad. Maple was. I mean, it's kind of interesting that Sword Art. Everybody remembers Sword Art being really bad, but they like were number one in the
Made it.
regular season, and they were fourth
Yeah,
place. Yeah.
with the later standards of TSM, honestly, like, do you think Sora is a integral part of ending TSM? By the way, just
He
because of how much
is.
he cost.
He was so expensive,
See,
and everything with Peter Zhang too. He was like a big problem. He was a big
yeah,
instigator of the Peter Zhang drama and the
yeah.
removal of double lift and everything too, right? Like he was a big
Not
problem.
because he's like a criminal, guys. By the way, I'm just saying
No,
he
no,
just
it's just
happened to be there, and
he
it's
was just
very
a
funny.
yeah, he was a pivotal character in the drama, but all he did was cash out, right? All he did was
Yeah,
take
he
the
actually
big like
got his
paycheck.
money scammed by Peter Zane too. So
A little bit, yeah.
he got his like whole
Yes.
his car payment like 80K, which is for pro players back then not that much, but for anyone else that's a lot of money.
Yeah. It's funny how it always somehow we ended up back at TSM,
It's
right?
always
Yeah.
back at TSM, man. It's fine.
All right, all right, all right. That's enough of FlyQuest. They're gone. They're done. Let's wrap up a quick eulogy, right? What are our thoughts for the future of FlyQuest? What are our thoughts going to Summer Split? And just a brief overview of some things you want to say about them and their players.
Yeah, so they lost. It was very embarrassing. Woohoo. But I will say it's not over for this team. I do think they might make a little bit of changes, but it's minimum they're going to get a coach, obviously. So that will make them a lot better. I feel like very low hope, but like I have like a 20% hope that this is the wake up call for Inspired and Bwipo. I actually think Bwipo will never lose his ego. Like I actually think that while he is introspective to some extent, at his core, like his character trait is like his main superpower is like he just has a lot of ego, and he plays like the same way he plays against wildcards, he plays against like top Koreans. So even when he gets tilted, it's not because he's like he has doubts. It's just like he's nervous at that point, like nervous about. I guess it doesn't even make sense as logic, but what I'm saying is like I don't think he'll be down for long when he's tilted.
Mm. He
Um,
did make a tweet asking to basically be left alone by his fans. That was interesting. Never seen him do that before, but yeah.
yeah, that is interesting. I was like, wow, that's pretty unusual for him. Other than that, I mean, I don't think they're done. I think it's like the drafting coach being gone is just a huge blow, and we've never seen them play. It's not like we saw the same team ever after that. So
Yeah.
to me, like, can I even know that this team can't just perform similarly as long as they have one of the most important aspects of league covered? Um, I will say the trust and the team dynamics must suck in this team.
Yep, it kind of sucks to be flamed by Inspired all split long, and then you go to International, and you have to rely on Inspired, and then he shits the bed.
Yeah. There are a lot of people like this though. Like in history, there are a lot of people who are flamers in on their team, and then when they go to a pro match or when they go to like the finals or something, they aren't that good.
Yeah, yeah.
This is like I think it's like part and parcel of when you have a big ego and you're like normally good. It's you flame a lot because you're also insecure. That's actually a theory I have. Knowing a lot of people who are extremely good at games, but
Yeah,
not a lot of other things.
they're big, yeah, big flamers who are insecure. Yeah, no, that adds up. That's just a life thing, bro. That's like, the guy
Hmm.
who's always yapping and complaining. Well, he's probably insecure about something. Um, that's a
Yep.
deeper topic, though. That's a much deeper
Yeah.
topic.
I'll tell you some stories off podcast. I can't say it on a podcast, but
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I'll say that I want to focus on the rookies. I think that Masu, he played well in the situations he was given. Right, a lot of the dives he played mechanically well, but he still died. And I think a lot of the team fighting he played well enough, but like let's be honest, still needs to work on laning. That's not a surprise.
yep.
And I think that this is something a lot of AD carries suffer, especially rookie AD carries, is that they need to find a way to make themselves heard. They need to find a way to make their needs known because they're a very important piece, but they don't have a lot of agency, right? ADCs can't really influence the game a lot in the early game, right? At least not proactively. Like a lot of their
Yes.
influence is how well they farm and where they go. Like what tower are they hitting, right? That's not really an ADC choice, that's a team choice. So I think that Masu probably needs to learn at some point to figure out like this is something Doublelift is great at, right? Is like, hey, you guys are inting, play around me, stop playing around Blippo. Like at some point in the tournament, a veteran ADC would have recognized his top laner is running it down or his jungler is running it down. He needs to yell and scream at his team, "You're playing Maokai Sejuani and you're camping bot lane." Like something like that, right? Or like, I'm not lane
Yep.
swapping. I'm gonna shit on these guys in lane. Something like that. Give me a winning
You're the
bot
role
lane.
that has to be the diva. Like you
Yeah,
have to.
yeah.
You're a superstar role, regardless of there are even like the quote unquote bad AD carries of history, like the Hjarnens of the world or the whatever ghosts of the world. They pick the
Oh,
character and they like pick the timing to play it.
yeah, yeah.
And I wouldn't say Ghost is even bad per se. He just had a very short career compared
Ghost
to the highest
is
level.
Ghost is really really good. He just has he just had Candy and Showmakers as teammates. It's just
Yeah,
not fair.
exactly.
It's just not really fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a better way to describe it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's something to learn from Masu. I think he was the most interesting and promising looking just aspect of FlyQuest at this tournament, and that he is a freaking fresh brand new rookie. And he played mechanically fine enough. He just didn't have a voice or say. Like he basically didn't impact the results of any of the series or games. Buzio, he did have some impact in how the games went. He was a mega inter, all right, and like there's a lot to learn for that for Buzio, where you just gotta keep your cool, man. Just gotta keep it in your pants. Just like learn to hook better. I don't know, aim better. This is a lot to improve for Buzio, I think, and
The problem is he's not even a super rookie anymore. He's played with Doublelift, and this is his second year.
this is his second year. He is green. He's not a rookie, but
He's
he's very
green,
green. Yeah,
sure,
he's not.
but
Yeah, but this is his first international, and I think
oh, that's true.
this
Okay,
is his
that's
first
fair.
international. This is his first time even placing high ever, right? So, um, to be honest, I'm I'm not really gonna fault him too much. I'm gonna start like Busio starts getting like actual blame, like reasonable blame placed on him when it becomes a recurring thing, right? Like if he comes back from MSI and he's kind of deflated and bad, then we have to start to wonder if he's actually not cut out for it or if he actually makes it to Worlds this year and he's doing the same stuff, right? He's still
Mhm.
Nautilus hooking
Yes.
walls and chain inting like 8 to 10 kills, 8 to 10 deaths, then yeah, we got a problem. But I think for now, it's whatever. It's like you had a bad tournament, you're a rookie, you got gapped by T1, like sucks, right? And then I'm pretty sure Woody, PSG's bot lane is like extremely tenured. Like I think that guy used to be a top laner, right? Like, so yeah, and that's pretty much all I have to say. Anything last things about FlyQuest before we
No,
talk about other stuff?
we
All right,
we gave him a lot of time, so I'm
we
pretty
did,
happy with
we did.
I like. NA deserves a lot of time, but hopefully we have another team to talk about later on.
Yes, yes, we might. I might, yeah, yeah, okay, let's talk about a little bit about Fnatic, and I kind of want to talk about Gam too. We'll just brief send off for Gam because they're out. I thought they were gonna be dead in the water, and they were not. They were playing with three subs. Their entire region got like annihilated right before this tournament started, and yet they were quite competitive. They didn't win a game against Fnatic, but they got very, very close. And considering I think Fnatic's skill level was a bit higher than I expected at this international, they took a game. They took a game off top esports. Um, Gam really pushed Fnatic, and I was impressed considering their situation. So, any quick thoughts on Gam? Any quick thoughts on Levi, the captain or general, whatever they call him?
I feel like Kiaya used. I feel like he used to be their mid laner, honestly. But anyways, he might have been a real swap. But I think they fought very like it was respectable.
Yeah.
I truly thought that this team would be dead in the water as well.
Yep.
Levi is still a joy to watch when he's playing well.
Yep.
And yeah, that's about it. I think I respect them, but like it was, they're just so outgunned. They don't have the resources. They should honestly be absorbed into the PCS, and PCS gets two spots. That's my thought. Or
Yep.
three spots. Like that whole region getting three spots sounds reasonable to me, but whatever.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's reasonable, especially with the recent controversy they've had. I think Emo, Easy Love, and Elio, those were the guys that they're the subs, I think. Funny statistic, Easy Love was on Rainbow Warriors before, and I think he had a losing streak of 12 games. He was like 0 and 12 at some point in the VCS region. That's really bad. But then to come out in to international and like have a pretty decent performance on Zeri and stuff, that's kind of crazy. To go from 0 and 12 in a wild card to like kind of playing well against Fnatic's bot lane. That's pretty cool. I thought that was interesting.
That
Um,
is true. I didn't know that. Huh.
yeah, yeah. So pretty interesting stuff. I love the memes. I don't know why. I was watching Casual's co-stream and he said, "Yo, who Rumble ulted Easy Love's match history?" Because he's just a big line of red. Oh, that's messed up. All right, let's talk about Fnatic now. Fnatic, honestly, was better than I thought they were going to be. They took a game off top esports and they were really close to actually just winning the series, if we're being honest. So, what are your thoughts on Fnatic and top esports?
Hmm. I thought that the gap was pretty big between Oscarinen and Mister 369, but I think Fnatic in general was quite good. Above what I expected, to be honest. Like
Yeah,
I thought they were literally a full tier, maybe a tier and a half below top esports, and I don't think you even think top esports is like a top contender or anything. But I
yeah,
just thought there was just such a gap because they just look shaky, right? And they what was I most impressed by? I mean, Humanoid's the obvious standout. He had, other than when he was off the block, he in that first series, he was really good. He was just smurfing on Cream, and Cream is not a pushover, guys. This is like
yeah,
one of the like key parts of that OMG almost Cinderella run last year.
yeah,
I truly did not think it would be as competitive. I think that Fnatic was exciting. Um, I don't think Razork played as well as he could have, which is good for their upside. Like he could have played even better. And uh, like Style on Tien more. But all to say is like, oh, what other thoughts? Jin's so good. Noah's extra bad. I don't
mm,
know what happened. That's also
mm,
something that stood out to me too that I didn't expect. I know Noah isn't like the number 180 carry, but there were times where he was still like a star player in that region. And
yeah,
this year he was had it rough. And going to Worlds, he's not the type that like goes to Worlds like Humanoid. It's like, all right, guys, now it matters. In
yeah,
terms of that, no, he played like dog shit. He got Jackie Love like made him look like like he basically did what Uzi did to international AD carries for the longest time. It's like a plus 50 raw CS lead out
yeah,
of nowhere. And I'm sitting there like, and your support is good.
yeah. Jin's
Like,
insane. Yeah, no,
all right,
Noah
so I
got
said a
Astro
lot, but
capped.
like I like wiped it from my head and then like it just came back to me. I was like, oh god, it was so painful to watch.
Yeah, Noah got astro gapped by Jackie Liv. I mean, no shame in that. Jackie Liv is insane.
Jackie Love is insane.
I think Jackie Liv's always been good for a long time. He's just, he's just a bit of an inter sometimes.
He's a bit of an intern. His best support before Mako was like Mark. So
Yeah.
like
Well, no, they have Baolan was better than Mark ever was.
Balan consistency wise, no. At Worlds, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
I,
Well,
I
whatever.
think that like if you like think about Balan was like meme done all the way up until that Worlds.
Yeah. Well,
And they also
I.
did lose to Fnatic when Balan was playing like shit.
Yeah, that's true. Well, a little bit until they 3-0'd him in the finals.
3-0 dude, what a year.
Yeah.
I wish League was like that still.
Back in the
Anyways,
day when Western teams could get to
when the
finals.
Western teams could get to finals, when
Yeah.
we had Liquid versus G2 in the finals of MSI.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
truly feels like I'm writing a fanfic at this point.
Yeah, you are. I mean, especially look at this MSI tournament this year. It's theoretically possible to get Team Liquid versus G2 in the finals this year. We're just never gonna ever predict it.
We didn't predict it that year either.
Sure. But okay, let's keep talking about top esports and Fnatic though. I actually
yeah.
disagree with your first take. I did not think Oscarin got gapped by 369 at all. I think Oscarin played perfectly fine. I think in game one, Fnatic they lane swapped and it was just awkward. Like I think Noah was a non-factor. He was not like had no damage at all, and that was just it, right? I think Fnatic played the lane swap fine in game one against top esports, but Noah individually was so behind that once they got to team fights, they were just not on even footing. And I think that even though Humanoid was fed and Fnatic was kind of at the right place at the right time and team fighting okay, the difference in gold in the ADCs was too big. Jackie Love had so much damage compared to Noah, and that kind of just lost him the game because it was a close game one, if I'm being honest.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and then game two, Oscarinen popped the F off, honestly. He was on the Camille. He was solo killing 369. He was 1v2ing people. He was just roaming around. He had a really good early game laning phase against the Cassante, against 369. I thought Razork was making a ton of good plays, and Jun had an insanely clutch Renata, and that's what got him the win against Top Esports. I also am going to say that I think Cream domestically on OMG was very, very good, but all year on Top Esports, I think Cream has been pretty underwhelming this split or this year and last split. And internationally, I think Cream just for the most part got gapped, except Game 3 by a Humanoid. Right? It was. I mean, he's playing a losing matchup, right? LeBlanc beats Ari, and it was
not
rough.
that hard.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, it was. He was getting solo killed on repeat by Humanoid. So props to Fnatic game two for really standout performances, I think, from the entire top side. From pretty much everybody but Noah, right? And then TN. Noah's not in the building. But TN is God, he's so bad, dude. He's so terrible internationally. I don't understand. This guy
so bad.
he is a god up until you reach domestic finals, and from then on, he's like a silver jungler. I don't understand him at all. Tien is so good in the regular season. I don't know if you watched any regular season LPL.
Good.
I caught a little bit of it. He's just a mega smurf. He reaches the finals of LPL. He becomes an inter, and then when you get to MSI and Worlds, he becomes a negative jungler. He's like, it would be better if he was just AFK sometimes. Like, it's so bad. I don't understand Tien as a human character, but it is
it's weird because
funny.
His first Worlds was Uber Smurf, so it's like
it's
not even like you could say it's his first time nerves. He's a champion, guys. He was like the best player on that team.
Dude, yeah, his first Worlds, he was the finals MVP. He was a mega smurf. He was fucking pooping on everybody. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Truly beyond reason.
Yep. And then we'll go to game 3. I do think this one was also close. This one was This was where we saw the pros and cons of Fnatic. I think game 1 and 2 really define where Fnatic can be good, and that's sometimes Humanoid and Razork can just ascend to another level. They can actually just play like some of the best players in the world, just for a brief periods of time, right? And then we see the other side of why Fnatic is not the best team in the EU, why Fnatic hasn't had a lot of international success in a long time, is that you see the other side of the coin of Razork and Humanoid. They run it the fuck down. There were so many really, really bad engages from Razork. I feel like he was engaging like 1v4 sometimes. There are no
Yep.
teammates near him. He's just like dashing in and ulting on Sejuani when there's no teammates. And then Humanoid, this is actually, I think this is the funniest play of 2024 so far. Um, Fnatic has they're in top side, right? And they're winning a fight. I think they get a catch and they kill Tien or something, or no, they kill Cream, who's split pushing on the Tristana, right? And Fnatic
Uh-huh.
is like overloading top side. They get a kill. The rest of top esports is running away, but 369 is teleporting in to save Cream, but Cream's already dead. And you know what happens? On the other side, Humanoid sees 369 TPing and he cancels his TP. He saves 369 from dying and he dies himself. It was the funniest play. So good. So good.
It
So
was
good.
so good. And it was like decisive too. Like Teresa was like, "Oh, okay," and then he just completely smashes him.
Oh yeah, Razork and Humanoid are also inters. Yeah, sometimes they're like really good, other times they're really bad. Sometimes Humanoid decides to cancel a TP that would win his whole team the game, but instead it causes him to die. So he basically saved 369 and gave him a kill. That was funny.
Wasn't
And
it Humanoid who did it, not Razork?
oh yeah, it was Humanoid. My bad. I misspoke if
He
I
was on
said that.
Mister. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Humanoid, canceled 369 TP, and basically, like he got PayPal'd. He saved Top Esports' from being international frauds once again. Because honestly, I think if that TP doesn't go through, or if that TP goes through, 369 dies, Humanoid can TP to top side, and Fnatic actually gets Baron, and they maybe win the series, which would be insane because Top Esports would
Would
then
be a huge upset.
it would be a huge upset. Top Esports would once again be the international frauds, as they always have been. And Top Esports would have to face GAM. And GAM knocked Top Esports out of Worlds, I think, 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. So there's a chance Top Esports wouldn't have even been in
That
MSI
is
still.
beyond wild to even consider. I didn't even realize that there was that connection.
Yeah, yeah. GAM is the one that took out Top Esports that ended their
Yeah,
streak with freaking
yeah,
Karthus
dude,
jungle.
sure did.
So
It was wild.
yep, that's an interesting thing about. But that's pretty much the play-in stage. It was actually really fun to watch. T1 and PSG Talon make it out, with Top Esports and Fnatic making it out. Now let's talk about the draw. So we
Mm-hmm.
are in the main stage now. I'm just going to take it from the top down. The draw is Genji plays against Fnatic. Um, Team Liquid plays against Top Esports. Yay. Probably the best thing that could have ever happened to Team Liquid. And then
Of the
G-
options, yeah.
G2 plays T1, and then BLG plays PSG Talon. So let's just give our brief thoughts and go down from the top. Gen G versus Fnatic. What are your thoughts on the series? I think these are all best of fives, so just give a quick prediction.
Uh, Fnatic is the team that could do it, I guess. If you're comparing between PSG and Fnatic, I think Fnatic's the team that could beat Genji, and Genji are international choke jobs. However, like, dude, I mean, like, it's just they're not in the same zip code. I think in terms of
Yeah, no.
potential, and
Mm-mm.
like your best bet is Humanoid plays well, right? But it's Chovy, guys.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Mm-mm.
I want to believe, but I think this is going to be a pretty one-sided affair. Just like a
It,
complete zero wins.
Yeah, no, Genji and T1. Okay, I think Genji before they got Chovy, you could say were teams that could lose to Western teams, but now with Chovy, like in the modern era of Genji,
Have they
there's
ever
no
lost
world.
to anyone that's not a Chinese team or
Yeah,
you?
Genji got eliminated
No,
by
in the modern era.
C9.
Modern era.
Oh no no yeah, not in
Like
the
as
modern
in
era.
because we're talking about Chovy Genji. I've never seen it happen.
No. So yeah, my point is Genji and T1 they don't lose to wildcard teams or I mean sorry Western teams anymore. It doesn't happen. Like there was a time where that happened, but we're far gone from that, right?
Yeah,
Um, yeah. Uh, so yeah, I think it's gonna be 3-0 Genji. It's not gonna be close. I think it's gonna be absolute
I agree.
demolish. Yeah. Okay. Sad.
I mean, it's just they're just terrifying. They should be like if they could just beat like if they could just show up internationally, they should be the best team in the world. The only
Yeah.
reason they're not being rated number one by like unanimously is just because they for some reason just lose their mind on the stage. They lose
Yeah.
to BLG like 3-0. Like,
Yep. Yep. 100%. It could happen this tournament even. So yeah, I'm
it's
going.
true.
Genji does not flinch in the face of Western teams ever.
No.
They don't. It's not like they even like. So I think a lot of teams like you can say that like last year, right? Remember BLG went really close series with Golden Guardians, and they also had a close
Yep.
series against G2. I
Yep.
think BLG was still an amazing team, but they have that underestimate the Western teams, and then the Western team kind of overperforms at the same time, and it ends up being close. Gen G and
Yes.
T1, they don't have a problem with that. They don't need to underestimate them because they systematically destroy them so easily.
In every point of the game.
It's
Like
just effortless, yeah.
they're basically like a modern Samsung White, except without with the choking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, a rip fanatic. All right. I think their only benefit that could possibly be in the favor of Fnatic is maybe the support. I think Jun has. You could maybe say he could compete with someone like Lehens and do something crazy because he has shown something amazing, right? Like Jun, I think is probably the best Western support right now.
Yeah.
He can play stuff like Blitzcrank. That's kind of your only wild card. Just throw in. It's RNG. Jun could just have the God Hand, land hook after hook, and actually get a game off of Genji because of like 10 miracle hooks, right? That could happen. Not likely though. All right, let's move on to I think I'm gonna say this is the closest series that we'll see in the
Mm,
first round of MSI, and that is
mm,
Team Liquid versus Top Esports. If there is ever going to be an upset, it would be right here, right now, in this match. Um, we have no idea what Team Liquid is going to look like. They have been able to observe the tournament and the meta from afar. So they have, if they're not cold, if they're not chokers, they have a strategic advantage over Top Esports, where they got to see them play. And Top Esports has a team of a bit of a couple inters, right?
yeah.
Tien is an international choker. I think Ubti will be just fine against him. And Jackie Love just has a self int, right? He has a personal he has a personal problem with Team Liquid himself. Go back to MSI 5 years ago. Corey J on Team Liquid knocked out Jackie Love from MSI. So there is
Yep.
some history. There is some stuff to say. So go ahead, talk about your favorite team. I kind of gave away. So I kind of took up the good one. So my bad.
No,
But
no, it's okay.
good.
You saying good things about my team is basically just as much fan service for me. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. We're gonna lose, but at least he said good things.
Yeah, it's true. It's
Because
true.
every time you say good things, it's over. But I'm like, you know what? I've accepted it.
Fuck it. Yep.
What I would say is like, yes, I agree. This is the highest chance of an upset. Team Liquid is a very good team in terms of like the coaching, in terms of their relative consistency now. Their strengths will not counter uh, top esports strengths per se in the bot lane because I think Jacqueline Mako's still better. Obviously, I'm not gonna go that. I'm not like so far on the Kool-Aid that I would say anything to the contrary. However, they won't get smashed, right? They won't be like Masu and Busio. This is we're not worried there, right? And then from there, like APA against this from Cream, this is probably APA's like probably his best matchup in this like unless humanoid ends, right? Like this is probably his best matchup on paper.
Yep.
So
Probably. Yeah.
that's great. APA
Yeah.
just pick scaling, dude. Go
Yeah.
Acel, and we have it. A really good shot. And then Impact Umpty, I'm like against any top jungle combo currently left in the tournament. I'm not like that worried that
Yeah.
anything could go like super wrong. I know I think 369 is better than Impact, but I also still stand by this statement. Impact is like a top 3, top 4, top laner in LCK minimum. If he gets the time to just integrate with the team, this guy is legitimately really good.
Yeah.
He's not going to be super flash. He's not going to like gig a smurf or whatever every game, but like he has all of the necessary traits to be just like an extremely valuable player if he was in a better region.
Yeah, I think Impact vs 369 is kind of like a rock versus a hard surface. Like they're kind of the same player, except 369 gets to be an LPL and Impact has to be an NA, right? Like they're kind of just the same player, where really really consistent, really really solid, has
Mm-hmm.
all of the has a very similar champion pool, right?
Yeah.
A lot of facilitating champions that can sometimes make plays, right? A lot of bruisery, tanky type champions, with a couple of spicy stuff added in there. I
Yeah.
don't know if I want to see Impact play Twisted Fate again, but that was a little rough. But
I mean,
besides
every
that,
good player has their like character I never want to see again from them. You know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
there was a while where I'm like, please, if you pick Xerath again, Faker, I might have to gouge my eyes out. But like, it's fine.
I
But
mean I really hope that okay, so I'll talk a little bit about meta, but maybe we'll bring it up more later. I do think Camille is sleeper broken as hell. She has one of the highest win rates in solo queue in top lane for high elo,
mhm.
and her
Thirsty.
recent changes
Oh.
to basically remove her from support and keep her in top lane, they removed a bunch of base damage on her E, but they gave her a bunch of move speed on her Q and damage and healing on the W. So Camille, if you can actually give top lane counterpick and somehow Impact is able to play Camille, let me be clear, Camille's actually not that hard to play. So I don't know if Impact, it's not Impact style. I don't know if you'll ever do it, but Oscarin showed the formula. You counterpick 369,
Mm-hmm.
he blind picks Cassante because that's what 369 does all the time. And you pick something like Camille, you can run that lane. You can carry from topside actually. So I'd be interested to see Team Liquid try something like that. I don't. It's just not Impact
And
style, but
yeah,
you should. I think you should still do it anyways, right? It's freaking. Your guys are they're up against a really high mountain to
I
climb.
think Team Liquid knows what it means to just like not give a shit who your opponent is and just like play all out
Yeah,
at MSI at least. So
yeah.
I think so.
I think it's an option that Team Liquid should think about. I think another option that Team Liquid should think about is um, just playing really, really hard to make Cream's life miserable. I think Cream is struggling, and yeah, APA is fine in the mid lane, but like if you can really make Cream struggle in the mid lane, and APA has so many scaling AOE champions, like Jackie Love will die. He'll just int. Like he'll like maybe he'll stomp lane, maybe he'll have tons of damage, but you throw him into a team fight where Jackie Love's like trying to get in there, but then he has to face against a giant Aesol ulti or giant Ziggs AoE stuff, like he'll die. So I think that's kind of our avenue there. So
Yeah.
couple of winning points for Team Liquid that we can look forward to. Um, so yeah, give me your prediction and I'll give you mine, and then we'll move on.
Uh,
What
it was
is
out.
he gonna
It's a
say?
best of three, right?
Best of five. Best of five.
Already? Oh God. Then I would say it's a three. It's a 3-2 Team Liquid. I guessed PSG. Although it was kind of cursed, I did guess PSG right as well against our boys. So like, I can't just give up on NA already.
Yeah, it's
I
true.
mean,
It's true.
obviously I'm a Team Liquid fan, but like,
Yeah, you did
I'm
sell
truly been
out
impressed. Like
FlyQuest. Yeah,
they really went through the whole gauntlet of like doubt into results.
yeah, yeah. I I'm gonna share your sentiment, and I'm gonna go even harder. I'm gonna say
Oh,
Tien is a Giga Inter, and he will stay a Giga Inter. Cream will be also a bit of an Inter, but mostly just invisible. And Jackie
mhm.
Love is going to have war flashbacks. It's going to be Team Liquid 3-1, and they're going to beat
Oh.
Top Esports because it's going to be like, okay, Top Esports gets one good game. Everyone's like, it's over. It's like a 3-0 for Top Esports. And then Team Liquid just kind of wakes up, have better strategy, Top Esports is just that team that like I know they're gonna underestimate Team Liquid. I just know it. They underestimate Fnatic. Top Esports is definitely Jackie Love and TN are the players I 100% think about. They prepare, they try super hard,
You're
and
like
they psych them.
salivating over the idea right now. It's
Dude, they
hilarious.
they they psych themselves out when they try to like, okay, we're gonna do all these things to beat BLG. Okay, we kind of ran it down. Whoops, but so we tried really hard. Against Team Liquid, they're gonna be like, okay, this is where we kind of just relax, take it cool, try out some different strategies, and we gotta prepare so we can beat Gen G, right? Top Esports is already preparing to beat Gen G, and then we just come in, fly and swoop them, we smack them down to the lower bracket. So yeah, that's I'm going 3-1 Team Liquid.
I
Are we crazy? Is it gonna happen?
It's not
Yes.
likely, but it could happen.
Yes,
And I
it's
think
gonna
we're thinking
happen,
it will happen.
and we are crazy. Yes. Okay, good. We're in agreement. All right, let's move on. Let's not talk about it anymore. Let's so G2 versus T1. I'm going by. I think the schedule is different, so we're kind of out of order with the schedule. But I went down by how the brackets were drawn. So G2 versus T1. It's a matchup old as time itself. It is El Clasico at MSI. This is where G2 in 2019 really became like iconic, famous, legendary, was G2 knocked T1 out of MSI in 2019, and also knocked them out of Worlds in 2019. So, but we're in a different world. It's a very different G2. It's a very different T1. Some of the players are still the same, right? Faker's still there, and Capson's still there, and Mickey's still there. Everybody else is different, though. So, who are you going? Who do you think? G2 versus T1.
I think it's T1. Guys, this is not the G2 of old. There's not the magic there. Hansama is not internationally. I've seen Hansama impress me once, and it was on the Rogue roster, right? And then he went
Yep.
to Team Liquid, and ever since then, I'm like, I honestly think he's kind of overrated still. And then besides that, like across the board, it's not the same matchup anymore. There's not the same magic. There's not the same. Besides Caps, could probably be better than Faker at times. I could believe that. I think Caps has been playing at a very high level while Faker has his moments.
Yeah. Faker's an
He
international god. Yeah.
he isn't, yeah. So it's possible, but at the very least, I hope to not see a stop there. I think it's going to be a 3-1. I do think G2 will be scrappy as they always are. They're very creative. They literally pioneered the lane swap meta in the world and like
they did.
curse them, but like they did it. They should know how to do it well, but like I mean, Korea like invented the art of lane swapping. I'm sorry, like it's not. Faker was like I've been around. I like the concept is basically in my DNA.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I put T1 as my winners, guys. So
Yeah.
I couldn't really expect them to lose this early.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm going T1 as well. I actually don't think it'll be. I think it'll be a 3-0 from T1. I think there will be some close games. I think that for sure G2. Okay, so I think we talked about this before. G2 domestically is they're playing freaking Legos with League of Legends, right? They just take different pieces and put them together in whatever spot they want, and they make these crazy creations that no one's ever thought of, and they do it over and over again, and they win over and over again. But
Yes.
G2, when they go international, at least for the last 2 to 3 years, they seem to get sucked right back into meta slaves. All their creativity kind of goes out the window compared to their domestic. They're still a very creative team internationally. I do think that they're when they go international, their consistency drops and their creativity is like their main strong suit, but it's just not as impressive as it is domestically, right? Like they're just not as creative. They don't really have that many spicy picks compared to domestic. And I'm afraid that's happening again because I don't think they have a 0% chance if G2 plays meta. If G2 plays pretty normally, right? If they do the expected stuff, like sure, if G2 does a lane swap, but it's like the lane swap with that stuff that we've already been seeing, I'm going to say that G2 gets 3-0 to 0% win ratio. But if G2 can come up with something that none of us here on the podcast or analysts have really thought of or expected, then they have a chance to take some games off. Then they have a chance to really maybe define the tournament meta, even, right? But so I'm going to go 3-0 though, because I think that G2 will cook up some stuff. It will look pretty good, but they won't be able to close it out. They'll lose steam, just get 3-0 immediately. So that's my prediction, unfortunately. But that's okay, because G2 can still go through the lower bracket. I think that they'll be probably one of the most impressive teams in the lower bracket. So let's move on to BLG versus PSG Talon. Let's give a quick prediction. Yeah, go ahead.
This between Genji and Fnatic and this and PSG, I think this is actually the most one-sided matchup in the thing. Yes, I might even agree with you. A G2 T1 might be a 3-0, but one-sidedness wise, like LMS has never had a good record against LPL. They are practice partner regions usually because of the proximity and a lot of players shared and coaches and connections, right? But like BLG is like only second to JDG in recent history in terms of like this is holy shit. This is like these are the guys. It's not gonna be close. I like Maple. You're good still. Like you're good enough to beat the wild cards and the play-ins. And you're very good consistency wise. Knight is gonna smash you. Like I don't care if Knight is literally tilted out of his mind. He'll still smash you. It's just like the same argument we made for Chovy versus Humanoid. Chovy could be choking, quote unquote, but there's like it's just a difference in class. There are different weight classes, so he could just like sit on him. Across the board, this BLG. I think we didn't mention this yet because they just came up for the first time in conversation. But like this BLG should not be like anything to be trifled with because like they when no one believed in them, they absolutely giga smashed everyone,
Yep.
except for JDG, and JDG does not exist anymore, and Knight is here. So to me,
Yeah.
like MSI, if I was being sane, this is their MSI to lose. But I'm
Yep.
not being sane. I just felt the spark of T1. Maybe it was, maybe League Dad like gave me some what
Maybe
is it
some
called?
serious copium.
Suggestions. Serious
Yeah.
copium. Yeah, he just
Yeah. Yeah.
made me huff some copium
He gave you
beforehand.
some.
But
He incepted. You got
BLG should be
inceptioned.
like the favorite, the de facto favorite.
Yeah, no, BLG is the favorites for the tournament. I mean, LPL owns MSI, and Top Esports isn't really a team. So it's like BLG is by far the favorites for this tournament. I think BLG has an insanely good record against Korea, right? You remember at World
They do.
BLG did not lose a BO5 against Korea last year. They got knocked out by Weibo Gaming of all teams, right? So I think BLG like it is their tournament to lose, as you said. I think they are by far the favorites when it comes to popular sentiment. With that being said, I think they're going to 3-0 PSG, but I don't think it's going to be a stomp because BLG is not Gen G or T1. BLG does not have clean records against teams that are worse than them. BLG consistently
Uh,
plays to the level of their opponents because they underestimate. I think this is generically an LPL trait where they're just not going to play as well. Like you put him against Gen G, they'll 3-0 Smurf. You put him against Golden Guardians, it's a 2-1 banger. Like I just think that's how BLG works. Okay.
okay, that's actually kind of fair. I just think with Knight there, it's a little different, but no,
It's true.
it's still fair. It's still
Yeah,
fair.
it's
Like
still
it
fair.
won't be stomps.
Yeah, I mean,
JDG was a stomp team.
Yagao is the main culprit when it comes to clowning and being stupid against wildcard
True.
teams. I think Yagao is so Knight is different. Knight is strictly business, I think. But I'm still gonna say it's a 3-0 for BLG. But I do think Genji Fnatic will be a harder stomp. That's
Okay.
all I'm gonna say. I think BLG will look slightly better. I mean, we're literally arguing with grains of sand here, so it's okay. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be an exciting one. So yeah, that's kind of our matchups. I think before we get to the chance to do another podcast, there are going to be more matches that are played than what we
A
talked
lot
about
of
now.
matches. This
So
basically like everything up until like round 3 or 4 basically will happen.
yeah, it's
Um,
because it's all going to be very consecutive, very fast paced.
I
So
like that a lot, by the way. But yeah,
I like it. Not good for podcasts, but good for entertainment.
yes.
So I think that's pretty much going to cover our MSI coverage. Was there anything you wanted to add or talk about? Did you want to bring up anything in the meta? Talk a bit more about lane swaps? Any of your personal stuff? Maybe we can have talk
Mm,
a little about ARAM. We did get a request from the league dad to talk about ARAM stuff, so I got some stuff for him to talk about. We can go over too.
yeah. Quickly about ARAM. Super happy they're doing more experimentation on just ARAM level buffs and adjustments. They've always done it, but like they brought back Hubris for melees. That's
Oh
something I'm
yes.
extremely excited about.
Oh yes. Yes.
It gives the full stats. It's just 15 AD whenever you get a reset, 90 seconds, and +2 per stack. That item on certain melee characters is absurd. On Pike, I got like 79 stacks, and it's not that good on
Wow.
Pike because Pike himself doesn't scale with AD like uber well, but I was still shanking people at the end.
Yeah.
If you build a DD with a hubris on a melee, you are going to the moon. And
Yeah.
then if it's Pike, you can use Spirit Visage and heal like 400 per kill. So
Yeah.
all I'm gonna say is it was hilarious. I don't necessarily think it was like optimal, but I love it. Pick hubris, and then they also did some other things, but I think I'll leave it to you to talk about that part because
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
always the ARAM person.
No, yeah, yeah, definitely interesting. I'm going to talk just about kind of what I've been like noticing and realizing. So we're about to go through some big changes. If you don't know, 14.10 is going to change the game pretty massively as well as ARAM, but we're not there yet. So we do have some bruiser itemization nerfs, right? So I think before items like Sterix, Sundered Sky, Eclipse were all really, really broken in ARAM, especially if you want the Ingenious Hunter build. They all got nerfed. They're still good. Eclipse, Sundered Sky, and Sterix are all very good items. If your champion wants to buy them, you can still buy them. And Ingenious Hunter is going away in 14.10, so get your games in now. Get your fun in now, okay?
Wait,
Because
I
it
didn't know
is,
that.
yeah,
What?
yeah, it's getting deleted, yeah, in 14.10.
Okay.
So get your fun in now. It is, I think, the most fun playstyle to have in ARAM. One
Yeah.
thing that I'll say that I'm going to piggyback off what you said, I have So I used to do this like a couple years ago when Death Dance was a better item, but I'm back to it just because the other Bruiser items got nerfed. Death Dance first item, when it makes sense, is really, really good because let's say you're a bruiser, right? You're playing something like, I don't know, like Wukong or Camille or
Yeah.
some bruiser that has to go in. Um, Getting a Death Dance that early, you're almost always guaranteed to get a kill. You just get 33% damage reduction, and if you get the kill, that's just you just have it. You just have 30% damage reduction, right? Because you don't have the bleed because you get the reset from the heal, and you are very likely to get that reset and kill early on, especially if you're one of those champions I just mentioned, right? If you're a Lee Sin and you get an early Death Dance, you're gonna get kills, you're gonna get assists, and you're gonna get that reset and bleed removed. And I think it's a super snowbally broken item. Are there more optimal items when it comes to like damage and stuff and tankiness? Yes, but when you combine it with like the potential for like high rolling, right? Getting a really good fight with Death Dance. I think it's uncontested when it comes to snowballing early game for ARAM.
It
So that's
also
something.
got buffed from 50% bonus AD healing to 75% bonus AD
There
healing,
you
and then
go.
it got 5 more AD for the same price.
Yeah,
The item is good, guys.
I think the item is really good. It's in combination with the item getting buffed and all the other bruiser items getting nerfed that made it really, really powerful. As
Mhm.
well as I think the wait, never mind. No. The passive does not work with Ingenious. I was thinking something else. Okay, but
Oh my god.
no, it does not work. That doesn't even
I
make
was like,
sense.
no way.
That doesn't even make sense.
It
No, it doesn't
doesn't. It
work.
wouldn't do anything. But if it
Yeah.
did, let him cook.
How that? Yeah, that'd be crazy. The next thing I've been doing. So I don't know if you knew this, but Profane Hydra is currently bugged. It does not give you lethality. It just doesn't give you the stats. So you buy the item, you're missing 18 lethality. I don't know if you knew that. I found that out, and I was like, "What the hell? I'm never buying this item again until it gets fixed."
Really, it still
Uh,
felt strong even with that issue, huh?
Yeah, maybe they hotfixed it recently, but I know at least up until Saturday and a couple days before, since like Wednesday, the patch, it didn't give lethality. I don't know if it's been changed since then. I haven't played today. But I've been going Ravenous Hydra. So actually, my build that I do on Browsers is literally just Death Dance into Ravenous Hydra. You have no HP, but you have everything else you need. You have the damage reduction, you have a ton of AD, you have a bit of resist, and you have a ton of ability haste and sustain. It has been my go-to. Death Dance, Ravenous Hydra. I was building it on Wukong. I was building it on Lee Sin, Camille. I was skipping Trinity Force and stuff like that in Sundered Sky and just going this combo. And then I was ditching Ingenious Hunter and just trying it out with other stuff, just like going more Triumph and Tenacity and like
Mm.
healing and health, flat health, overgrowth and stuff like that. And yeah, it feels pretty good. It was really, really powerful. So if you're worried about bruiser itemization on 14.9 because of all the nerfs, try this build. Try Death Dance Ravenous Hydra. It is really fun.
All
Um,
right, I'll give it a shot.
yeah, that's all I have
They
for the
added
RAM. Go ahead.
Omnivamp to Maw as well and gave it ability haste again.
Oh
With a
yeah.
little less magic resist, but like the Omnivamp's huge.
Yeah. Oh, and that's a good point because Ma gets buffed. Ma synergizes better with Death Dance than Sterix does.
Yes.
So it is a good combo. You get Death Dance into Ravenous Hydra into Ma, and you have a really, really powerful build as a bruiser. Um, I was also what was I doing? I was actually getting Death Dance. It's only 10% on range champions, but I was actually getting it later on some ADCs, and that shit slaps just because of the 75% AD healing, 10% damage reduction. It's a personal Knight's Vow. It's a personal Knight's Vow. So if you get
Yep.
Knight's Vow and a Death Dance, even though it's nerf for range, pretty good. Pretty good.
And it's an armor 80 item, which is one of the rarest combinations. Besides GA and that item are the only ones that give that.
Yeah, and GA is not in ARAM, so I think it's the only one. Yeah,
Yep.
so pretty good stuff. So yeah, that's gonna do it for us on this podcast. I think in the future, maybe I'll do a solo episode, or if Kevin wants to join,
I
talking
could
about
probably
14.
join you from Hawaii, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Well, maybe. We'll see. I might
we'll
not
see.
have the time, but we'll see.
Yeah, because Kevin's not gonna be here next week, so we'll find out. But up until then, try to enjoy MSI, root for Team Liquid, root for an NA, and if you can't root for NA, at least root for the West because, hey, maybe this is our tournament. You never know. Any tournament could be our tournament, and I'm excited for that. But try not to be too toxic, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.